Hello again. Got a question for you. What happens to your airplane when you do dumb things? Well, I can tell you what happens when I do dumb things. Today I was flying the Ranger and I forgot to put the clip in one of the struts. And so I'd done numerous rolls and Immelman turns and loops and whatever, and as a result it pulled loose from where the clip should have been, and then this thing was hanging down from the wing. So I had to land that way, and what happens when you land it that way? Well, you snap off the end of it. So, got a repair job to do. Now you could just buy another one, but I got thinking that a simple thing to do would be to cut a slot into the end of it, and then put a little piece of aluminium in there to substitute for the little broken bit of plastic that has come off. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Now, so we're going to cut in from the end of it that way. The width of the aluminium that's going to go in there, it's going to go right in the center. One of the questions is how far does that plastic go down, and just looking at it I would say it's right about where my thumbnail is, but RC Jim likes fence wire. I suppose I ought to do a video on 101 ways to use fence wire in your radio controlled hobby, but in this particular case what I'm going to do is take the fence wire and run it up the inside of the strut. And so I've got it inside there, marked with my thumb where it is, and then with it out of there, I see that the end of it is right where I figured it was going to be. So I'm just going to mark that lightly with some pencil, so I know I don't want to cut down farther than that. Okay, so next question is, what sort of hunk of scrap am I going to use? I'm always using scraps for different things, so I got this thin piece of aluminium, I got this thicker piece of aluminium. The thicker piece looks like it's about the same width as what was there. Certainly the thin piece would be adequate, but I think since it's so small anyway, I'll go ahead and use the thick bit. So we'll cut the little piece out of here, cut a slot into there. Probably use some epoxy, and then we'll run a screw through it from the other side to lock it in place, and I think that's going to do the job. Well, now we've done two things. We've got this marked out with what we're going to cut out on the end of it, and we've got this marked up with where we're going to cut the slot on the end of it. We'll try doing two different things. I'll try working with a hacksaw and perhaps a Dremel moto tool. We'll just see how they go. I'll use a grinder partially for that one. So here is our strut that we're working with, and we got our little bit that we've fabricated to go in there. So that will fit in there like so. We've measured, it should be 4 millimeters from the end of the strut to the thing, so we got that 4 millimeters. We got the width of the strut, so that should work out pretty well. I've decided to go ahead and use my favorite Gorilla Glue for this. My thinking on that is that it likes to expand. So anyway, with the Gorilla Glue you get a little bit of water on one of the surfaces, so I sprayed some water on that. The idea is to coat this other bit lightly, and I'm not too worried if I get a little bit of excess, because I want it filling up any gaps anyway, and it's not too hard to sand off if I get a bit of extra in there. Okay, so we got it on all of these surfaces. The other thing with something like this is that we've got no way to really clamp it because, you know, there's nothing to push together. So by having something that expands a little bit, it's going to be a good thing. Okay, usually with Gorilla Glue I like to work it around, make sure I've got a little bit of it everywhere. So I work the piece around back and forth and all of that sort of a thing. And then my other technique with Gorilla Glue that I like to do is to put tape around it to keep the glue from escaping and force it into all the little cracks and crevices and wherever it can find a place to go. So I'm going to put some tape around this. Okay, so we've coated both surfaces. Well, we sprayed water on the plastic bit. Then I've coated both sides of the aluminium with a Gorilla Glue. Now I'm tightly wrapping this tape around there in lieu of clamping it. I guess it wouldn't hurt to put a little clamp on it, but I don't think that's going to really do much. It can't move much that way. But the Gorilla Glue itself will tend to expand. Well, it'll have some that comes out here on the end of it, but we'll just file that off, sand it off, whatever. And that looks pretty good. Just confirm. Okay, we'll just confirm that our dimensions are right. We want 4 mils out. That's 4 mils out. Not much else to do there. So, yeah, we'll let that cure and see how we go. Well, we have now cleaned up the excess Gorilla Glue off the end of it. And just as a bit of extra security, I've drilled a hole in it. We're going to run that little piece of wire through it, put some glue in there, and that should have it very secure. So, quite pleased with how that's turned out. Our strut is now complete. We got the pin in there. I put a little bit of Gorilla Glue in with it, and so now I'm just going to file off the ends of that to tidy it up. We'll touch it up with a bit of paint, and that's in great shape. Well, we've filed down where the little pins came out on the end, dabbed a little bit of paint onto it. Might use a little bit more, but hey, I think that's probably quite good for our purposes, and that should do the job.